Have you ever wondered what life would be like during the Stone Age, when there was no trace of modern technology? Now, imagine being transported back in time, armed only with your knowledge of the 21st century. Adia and his classmates embark on a school hike, trekking through dense forests and rugged mountain trails. Eventually, they reach a suspension bridge. The teacher explains how to cross it safely. When it's Vic's turn, he's visibly shaken, nervous, and unsure. Though his friend tries to encourage him, Adia steps forward but glances down, becomes overwhelmed with fear, and loses his balance, falling from the bridge. Adia immediately leaps into action, pulling him to safety. As Vic recovers, the rest of the class starts laughing at him, especially after realizing his water bottle spilled and soaked his pants during the fall. Embarrassed and humiliated, Vic runs off. Adia follows and catches up with him near a rocky outcrop. As they look to the sky, they notice that a solar eclipse has begun. Suddenly, the ground beneath them begins to tremble. An earthquake. The ledge beneath Adia gives way, and he plunges downward. He manages to grab the edge of the cliff, calling for help, but Vic is too frightened to get close enough to save him. Then, behind them, a strange portal opens in the rock, and Adia is pulled into it. Adia regains consciousness and watches the portal close behind him. He hears someone speaking and cautiously peers out from behind a boulder. A man in ancient armor is nearby, holding a bunch of flowers and muttering to himself. Soon, a group of armed warriors appears and attacks the man. Though he defends himself skillfully, a final blow from behind brings him down. From a distance, Adia watches in shock. He tries to get a closer look but slips and triggers a siren. The megaphone in his backpack has turned on. Instantly, the warriors notice him, and their leader commands them to capture the boy. Just then, the fallen warrior, now back on his horse, swoops in to save Adia. The two make a narrow escape, but the pursuers are right behind them. As they reach a riverbank, the young warrior calls out to Velis for aid. A stone pathway magically forms across the water. And as soon as they cross, the path vanishes, sending the pursuing soldiers plunging into the river's current. The warrior brings Adia to a fortified settlement. There, they're met by Ilya and the elder named Osi, who are furious that the young man left the outpost without permission. He explains that he had accidentally ended up near a grim cliff and witnessed the Cumans destroying a field of flowers. Infuriated, he fought them off on his own until Cuman leader Kund Du appeared, and it was only thanks to Adia's distraction that he was able to escape. One of the elders decides the boy needs to be woken up and throws a bucket of cold water on him. When Adia comes to, he's disoriented and assumes his friend played a prank. But looking around, he notices unfamiliar faces in ancient attire. His strange way of speaking raises suspicion. The elder announces that at first light, they'll take him to Velis to verify his story. Until then, they lock him in a shed. Meanwhile, at the Cuman camp, Kund Du visits the shaman. The spirits had correctly revealed the Roman's location, but their attempt to eliminate him had failed, because a mysterious boy in unfamiliar clothes interfered. The shaman asks if the boy bore a dragon emblem. Kund Du confirms he did. The shaman is pleased. The spirits foretold the arrival of a messenger who would unlock immense power. Back in the shed, Adia tries to make sense of everything. A young girl arrives with milk and speaks kindly to him. He asks where he is, and she answers simply, he's in a shed in the outpost of Ryov, a defense post protecting Rus from Cuman attacks. When he asks what year it is, she tells him 1120 AD. Adia is stunned. Their conversation is interrupted by the warrior Adia helped earlier. He comes to express his gratitude. Adia says he needs to go home urgently. The young man assures him he'll be taken to Velis soon, and then allowed to return. While Isko mentions that he knows a place where many sorcerers dwell, Adia sets out to explore the outpost and snaps a few photos with his camera. While wandering, he bumps into Olko and asks if he could guide him to the sorcerers. While Isko agrees to take him but cautions that simply reaching them won't be enough. One must pass their trials, which test skill with a sword, a bow, and the mind. Determined, Adia insists on attempting the challenges. While Isko begins by testing Adia's ability to ride a horse. Just as Adia prepares to mount, someone grabs him from behind. He turns to see the captive Kuman, Tugarin. As Adia pulls away, a pin unknowingly slips from his coat, and Tugarin picks it up without anyone noticing. Next, Oel Isko allows Adia to try archery and swordplay. After watching his attempts, Olko concludes that Adia isn't ready. But Adia pleads to be trained and offers his megaphone in exchange. Olko accepts the trade, and the very next day, Adia's training begins. He practices horseback riding, sword fighting, and archery, closely observed by Alenka throughout. At the end of a training session, Oel Isko presents Adia with the massive sword of Ilum Morance. Excited, Adia asks if Dober refers to Dober Nikic. Realization dawns, he's standing among living legends, Dober Nikic, Ilya Morance, and Olko Papovich. Adia excitedly tells Olko that tales of these heroes have survived into his time. Over time, Adia improves remarkably with both sword and bow. When he's ready, Oel Isko draws a map to lead him to the sorcerers. Meanwhile, far away, the shaman continues practicing dark magic. He casts a spell on a raven and sends it out to scout. Adia sets off on his journey. While moving through the forest, he hears a noise and hides behind a tree, readying his bow. To his surprise, it's Alenka, gathering mushrooms. Adia explains that he's on a quest to find the sorcerer and return home. Showing her the map, he asks if she recognizes the place. Wanting to help, Alenka agrees to join him. Eventually, they reach the marked location. As soon as Adia steps forward, he's transported into a different realm, an endless frozen ocean. A booming voice demands to know who he is and why he has come. Adia begs for help, saying he just wants to go back home. The voice agrees, but only for a price. Adia must admit his deepest fears. If he lies, he'll be trapped forever. Adia confesses about a past accident, his fear of heights, and how that fear once stopped him from helping a friend. Satisfied, the voice accepts his honesty and tells him about a powerful stone. This stone can cross through time, but only someone worthy can uncover it. It is said to be found where the wingless nest, visible when the wind is tamed, and it will only release its magic when touched heart to heart. Adia returns to Alenka and repeats the sorcerer's message. She remembers a village called Avo, and they decide to go there. When they arrive, they find Vasa's house built right by the lake. Alenka explains that the villagers are kind and share a legend. Their ancestors may have once been STS. An idea strikes Adia. To tame the wind, he builds a small parachute and releases it into the air. The wind carries it across the lake, and he and Alenka run after it. The chase leads them to a spot in the water where Adia dives in and retrieves the stone. High above, the raven spies on them and immediately returns to the shaman with the news. Moments later, a scream pierces the air. Alenka looks up and sees a horde of Kumans charging into the village. She and Adia hide as the attackers burn homes and slay the innocent. From the watchtower, a guard spots the smoke and raises the alarm. The heroes split into teams. Nikita and Doya go one way, Lishko and the rest head in another. Soon, the two groups converge at the site of the raid, where they find Adia and Alenka. A fierce battle breaks out. Adia spots an enemy creeping behind the heroes and quickly fires an arrow, taking him down. Back at the outpost, Elder Roy scolds Adia and Alenka for wandering off, but the heroes defend them, reminding Roy that Adia's mission to return home is vital. They suggest heading to Grim Cliff at sunrise. That night, Kund Du hears of the failed mission. Furious, he storms into the shaman's tent. The shaman promises this time he won't fail. He will bring him the stone. The next day, Adia, Elder Roy, and the warriors journey to Grim Cliff. They insert the stone into a hollow, but nothing happens. It has no power. Roy suggests they wait for a thunderstorm. Since Perron controls the elements, lightning might awaken the stone. Upon returning to Ryov, Adia finds Alenka looking miserable. He goes to Elder Roy and pleads for her punishment to be lifted. While there, Adia notices blueprints of mechanical wings on the Elder's table. Spotting an error, he points it out. Roy explains that he's designing flying devices so warriors can drop the stone onto Kuman troops. Adia offers to help with the plans. Later, Adia and Alenka go for a walk. During their stroll, she tells him a legend about the Heart Stone. Anyone who finds it may be reunited with a lost loved one or discover their true soulmate. She then quietly confesses that she thinks Adia is special. Adia returns to the workshop and continues helping Roy refine the glider design. Suddenly, Oel Isco rushes in. Ilya is calling them immediately. When they arrive, Ilya explains that the Kuman attack on Avo wasn't random. They were after Adia and the stone. Understanding the danger, Roy says the artifact must be hidden. Back at the workshop, they go to hide the stone, but it's missing. After turning the room upside down, they step outside and see Melanica cracking nuts. Roy spots the magical stone with her. Taking it back, he says they must place it at the top of the watchtower. But Elder Roy gently convinces him, and the two ascend to the very top. Battling his fear, Adia even dares to approach the edge and gaze out at the vast landscape stretching beyond. As they watch, a thunderstorm finally begins to gather in the distance. As Adia speaks with Alenka, a sudden hailstorm breaks out. Feeling sympathy for the imprisoned Kuman, he drapes a covering over the prison roof. Lightning strikes the tallest point of the observation tower. Some stones are dislodged and crash down near the base of the prison. The impact allows Tugarin to break free and flee to his brother. But instead of a warm welcome, he is thrown out of the Khan's tent in frustration. Meanwhile, the shaman takes notice of a peculiar stone that Tugarin unknowingly brought with him, one blessed by Perron himself. At daybreak, Elder Roy discovers the stone is missing and learns that Tugarin has escaped. Oel Isco proposes a nighttime raid on the enemy camp to retrieve it, and the Elder agrees. With time running out, they set to work finishing the hang glider, which is nearly complete. Only a final coat of black paint remains. Back in the Kuman camp, the Khan demands the promised magical power from the shaman. But the shaman explains that the artifact remains powerless unless awakened by the very one who discovered it. Later that day, Elder Roy and Alenka go out to collect soil for the warrior's camouflage. Alenka suggests picking berries for Adia's journey and wanders off into the forest. Alone, she is ambushed by a group of Kumans. Tie her onto a horse and prepare to flee until Elder Roy intervenes. A fierce struggle follows, but despite his courage, he is gravely wounded while the attackers escape with the girl. By nightfall, Elder Roy is discovered and brought back to the outpost, barely alive. Before taking his last breath, he informs the others that Alenka has been captured. Meanwhile, the girl is delivered to the Kuman Khan. Enraged, he beats one of his men and orders him to find the boy. At that moment, Adia sits in Roy's workshop, mourning the elder. A raven lands on the window, clutching a small note in its claws. It's from Alenka. Wasting no time, Adia packs up and follows the bird toward the Kuman camp. Arriving there, he finds Alenka and quietly tells her about Roy's death. The shaman soon appears and offers Adia the artifact, urging him to fill it with power. In return, Adia demands his backpack. Inside are fireworks and smoke bombs, which he uses to create chaos in the enemy camp. Attempting to flee with Alenka, they are intercepted by the Khan, who captures them once more. He gives Adia one final chance to activate the stone, threatening Alenka's life if he refuses. Adia agrees, but only if the Khan promises their safety. Taking the artifact in hand, he finally understands what needs to be done. He passes it to Alenka, and together they awaken its power. They hand it over to Wak, honoring their side of the deal. But the Khan immediately commands Tugarin to execute them anyway. The shaman then begins his spell, drawing on the stone's energy. As the teens are about to be executed, Karen steps forward, sword raised. But he recalls how Adia shielded him from the hailstorm. At the last second, he turns on the other soldiers, taking them down and freeing the children. Infuriated by his brother's betrayal, Kund kills Tugarin. Adia and Alenka, escaping through the woods, run into the heroes who were on their way to rescue them. Back at the outpost, Adia explains the terrible power of the stone and the golem that now threatens them all. Soon, a sentry spots the Kuman army approaching, and with it, the monstrous golem. Weapons prove useless against the creature. As panic spreads, the women and children are ushered into hiding. Then Oel Isco makes a daring move. Mounting a horse, he taunts the golem and leads it toward the river. Once there, the warrior manages to lure it into the water, where aid from Velis finally brings the beast down. No one knows if Oel Isco survived. Ros Anka races to the river, calling out in anguish. Oel Isco rises from the water. Overjoyed, she runs to him and confesses her love. Meanwhile, Adia notices the solar eclipse beginning. Realizing his moment has come, he says goodbye to Ros Anka and heads for the cliff. As the Kuman army begins its final push through the defenses, a brutal battle unfolds. Despite being outnumbered, the warriors fight valiantly and push back the invaders. The shaman resurrects the golem again. Adia returns to the outpost with a final plan. Climbing to the top of the tower, he straps on the glider and stands at the ledge. Conquering his fear, he leaps into the air, soaring toward the enemy. Steering toward the shaman, he knocks the stone from the mage's hands. The landing is rough and Adia tumbles onto the rocks, right in front of Kundu. But instead of handing the stone to the Khan, Adia hurls it into the river. Its power vanishes, and the golem collapses into rubble. But Olko arrives in time to save the boy. After a short but fierce fight, he throws the Khan off the cliff. With little time to spare, Adia asks to be taken back to the cliff where it all began. As he prepares to leave, he hears Alenka's voice. She has come to say goodbye. Knowing they may never meet again, she kisses him. Then Adia steps forward and vanishes into the portal. Back in the present day, without hesitation, he grabs his hand and pulls him to safety. His friend, shaken, says he thought Adia was too scared to help. Adia admits that he was. But since then, he's faced much worse. Ancient trials, strange lands, mighty warriors, terrifying magic, and even a stone monster. As he recounts his journey, his friend stares in amazement. Nearby, their classmates cheer and applaud, moved by Adia's courage. If you enjoyed the movie, please don't forget to like and subscribe for more movie recaps like this.